Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Leigh.
Thank you, George. Okay, I've got, by my calculations, 13 minutes and 20 seconds for this lightning talk. So my use case for creating this little plugin was that, for example, some of our customers would talk. Is this the first slide? Yes, it is the first slide. Right. So they had a large map, and they needed some, but not all of the topics in it reviewed, and they needed those topics reviewed by different SMEs, subject matter experts, and some of their SMEs only wanted to see content specifically for them. Some wanted to see everything for context. I see what you mean about the weird echo now. But they want to know what's assigned to them so they can sort of just skip over what they don't need to look at. And basically, you want to give your SMEs what they're asking for, because sometimes it can be really hard to get their time in the first place. And so you want to make them as happy as you can. So how do you assemble content for review in different combinations for different SMEs? So that was my challenge. So people have different solutions. They develop temporary review maps, and they just put the topics in there for each SME, and they tag things, and they do all kinds of manual stuff, you know, to customize these review PDFs. And I'm saying PDFs, but obviously this could refer to any type of medium. And this can be pretty grim, even if you figure out how to script a lot of it. So I thought, well, you know, if you have a capable CMS, why not take advantage of this to sort of automatically customize your review stuff? So I'm using the Ixiasoft DITA CMS in this presentation because it's perfectly set up to do this, and because I work for them. But it's not a CMS demo. And I know for a fact that the DITA CMS is not the only one that provides the files that you need to do what I'm doing here. So any CMS that operates along the same principle, you could do the same thing. But before I say that, I do want to point out, for those of you who know anything about the DITA CMS, that it does have a built-in collaborative review feature, which is essentially when your maps get to a certain status, the DITA CMS automatically creates a review output and sends it to the assigned reviewers. And this is not a competition for that functionality, and ultimately I would like for us to roll some of this into that functionality. But this is just sort of an add-on to it, I guess, something you could do yourself to enhance those PDFs or HTML or whatever medium you prefer. So the CMS, in the CMS, every topic, of course, has a file name. And this file name is recorded in the object's properties file. So every object in the CMS, every map, every topic, every image has a .properties file that has some information about that. And this properties file is sent to the output generator when you generate output. And for those of you who don't know what the output generator is, it's sort of our shell around the DITA Open Toolkit that just facilitates communication between the CMS and the OT. So it sends this already. So since it's there, use it. And so this is a snippet of the properties file, and the thing that we are interested in is the name property, which is the CMS file name for the topic. And it also, the CMS also has a second file for every object called custom properties. And in this file, you have the topic's status, and you have the reviewers that are assigned to it, and you have the date that the review is due, and you have any comments to the reviewer. So this custom properties file is also sent to the output generator and therefore is available to the OT. And here is a snippet of that file, and what we are interested in here is the status, which in this case is authoring the review, and the assigned to. So those are the 4 assigned reviewers. And the due date, which is November 3rd, 2017. And the comment for conversation with Leigh, she could be completely wrong. I often am. So I just try to get that out of the way. So topics can be assigned to different combinations of reviewers. So some topics may have one reviewer, some may have 10, anywhere in between, whatever. You need to be able to account for that. This is just a screenshot of how assignments are done in the CMS. And some review requests have associated due date and comments. These are optional. They may not always be present, but if they are, it's nice to put that in your review output. And then we want to grab some stuff from the topic itself. So maybe if there are any draft comment elements in there, we would like to include those. And if there are any oxygen or X metal track changes comments in there, maybe we want to include those as well. Now, let's say in our use case, only topics that authoring review need to be reviewed. So here's a map, screenshot of a map. Some of you may recognize this is a chapter from DITA for print. I have permission from the author to use this. And so you've got topics at different statuses in the map. Some are at done, they don't need to be reviewed, they've been finalized, some are at work, they're not ready for review yet, and so forth. You only want the ones that are at review that have the red dot next to them. And then here's an oxygen comment there that you might want to appear. And then draft comment is an OT freebie, so you can control whether or not that's there with a ANT parameter. So that's already there. We're just going to make it a little bit prettier. All right, so what we're going to do with this plugin is we're going to include in our output PDF per parameter either topics at all statuses or only topics at authoring review status. Topics for all the assigned or all reviewers or only the reviewer that you pick. Whether we are or not going to include oxygen comments and yes, no for draft comments. And then we're always going to include the CMS file name, and we're always going to include the due date and the review comments if present. So my plugin includes some custom parameters. So we've got the include status, we've got the include reviewer and the include comments. And this is how those would be set up in the output generator, so you could make your selections when you're generating the output. And this is a sample of the output. So this is, I've included all of the reviewers. So I've got the file name first, and this would be, for you, the author, when you get this commented PDF back, you can easily go and find that topic in the repository to make the changes. The due date, the assigned reviewers, the CMS comment in bright yellow, so it's easy to spot, and then of course the draft comment down here. And here's an example of output that includes the oxygen comment. Now I went the sort of low-hanging fruit route on this. I'm only including the comments, so I'm not including additions, I'm not including deletions, I'm not including changes. I'm just including comments. Oxygen itself actually includes a plugin called COM Oxygen XML PDF CSS, which has facility to include all of the track changes information, and I think it puts the comments in a little float somewhere so it doesn't actually change the layout of your document, which this obviously does. But this is a unsophisticated, quick. I have like 3 hours to put this plugin together for this presentation, so this is what I'm going to do approach. And so what I changed, this is really simple to do, right? What I changed was I changed this template here that starts with match common topic processing, which many of you might be familiar with, and I added a variable to check to see if there is a custom properties file for that object and a properties file for that object, and if so, I just grabbed the value of whatever parameter I needed, threw it into another variable, and then just output that information, the value of those variables, right after the title. Put a yellow background on it, boom. Really easy to do. Then of course I added the parameters to the plugin that you saw on the output generator screen. It's really easy. I mean, it's quite simple. And there was actually, maybe about a month ago, somebody had a question on the OT DITA OT users list about doing something very similar just to this, and I forget what CMS they were using, but their CMS had a properties file or parameters file or something like that that would feed into exactly the same approach. So yeah, I put the plugin together in probably about like 3 hours, even given all the mistakes I make because I'm such a bad typist. And I think I have a couple of extra minutes, so I mean I can show you the code if you want, if anybody's interested in seeing that. It's not pretty, but let's see, which OT did I do this in? Here's one. Yeah, so basically 2 variables. It's not, I don't know why it just doesn't automatically show. Maybe. Yeah, I guess that just takes over, doesn't it? Cat picture. My cat's cuter than Yarno's. Let's see if it'll read. Nope. Well, I don't really know what to do about this.
Programs for you?
Hmm?
Is that your programmer?
He is. He has a lot of insight. Yeah, I don't know what to do about this. So I guess if anyone wants to see it, just find me and I'll show it to you. So that's all I got. Any questions?
The status attribute, which is this? Is it the DITA built-in status attribute, which is a...
No, the CMS maintains its own workflow, and it's configurable. So one of the out-of-the-box statuses that we have is authoring review. And so obviously if you had configured that and you had a different, you were calling it something different, you would need to adjust your plugin accordingly. But yeah. Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.